Before I start the review, I just wanted to point out that I'm using a different room this time for this video because there's some personal things going on in my bedroom. So I'm just using this as a temporary location for this review. But anyway, Spider-Man Homecoming is directed by John Watts and stars Tom Holland, Michael Keaton, Jon Favreau, and Robert Downey Jr. This is the 16th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the second reboot of the Spider-Man franchise. In this story, we have Peter Parker, who wants desperately to become an Avenger from Tony Stark, but Tony refuses to have him work for him because he feels like he's not cut out for it yet. And the film deals with Peter having to go through his life in high school while at the same time trying to do his daily routines and responsibilities as Spider-Man as well. Now, a little backstory. I actually grew up with Spider-Man back in the day when, in the 90s when the original cartoon series came out. If anyone's ever watched that series, that was from the late 90s or mid to late 90s, and it really got me into the character of Spider-Man, and it got me really into the character alone, and I even read some of the comic books as well. I read actually 3 or 4 issues of the Ultimate Spider-Man series, and I became so fond of the character that I couldn't wait for him to be on the big screen. And I actually remember watching the first Spider-Man film from 2002 in the theaters, and that was actually the first time that got me, that I really felt like superhero films were becoming more of a big deal for me, because that to me, to this day, I hold the Tobey Maguire one as a special place in my heart, along with the second film. And after the third film, which really I found just very disappointing, it seemed like the series of films were starting to go downhill. And then in 2012, they started to reboot the franchise with the Amazing Spider-Man movies, which had an interesting idea going for it with the way they were setting up with the direction. It's just that series also fell short, and they never even resolved it. And in fact, even the second film, which I actually still have my original review up from 2014, that film fell short to the point. That film was so rushed and so and so plotted out that they never even really got a chance to finish that series. So it seemed like after Spider-Man 3, they pretty much had movies that were going downhill, and they didn't really take anywhere with this franchise. And then when I saw Captain America: Civil War last year, when I saw that Tom Holland was going to play Spider-Man, it actually kind of got me curious, because Spider-Man is one of those characters that, even though he is very, popular in the comics, it just seems like the movies have a hard time trying to find the right direction for him. And with Captain America: Civil War, for the little screen time that we have from Tom Holland playing him, it seems like the franchise that they're going with now at the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going in the right step. And I really enjoy Tom Holland and Captain America: Civil War, and seeing him, and I was getting excited to see him in this film as well. And what also got me curious was seeing in the casting for this film, we had also Michael Keaton. When I heard that Michael Keaton was going to play the villain, it actually got pumped as well. I've always been a fan of Michael Keaton, especially with his older films when he was in Batman and Beetlejuice, and he's just always one of those guys that I can watch pretty much any movie in, and I always look for him, and I always look forward to his performance no matter what in a film, whether the movie itself is good or bad. And so I really got interested in seeing this one, and I've been such a big fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies that I actually feel like with this one, I can honestly say is the best one that I've seen probably since the original Spider-Man 2. And with this movie, Michael Keaton plays Adrian Toomes, who actually started out as a regular Joe, working for this salvage company to pretty much clean up the streets of New York after the events of the Avengers. And his company gets pretty much terminated from Tony Stark's company, and he decides to get revenge by selling these advanced weapons and creating these weapons, and to become what's known as the Vulture. And I actually remember hearing about the Vulture I actually remember first seeing the Vulture in the original video game of the first Spider-Man movie, and that was the first time I got introduced, and it made me curious of whether they would ever put him in a movie. And from what I heard was that he was originally supposed to be in the original Spider-Man 4 if Sam Raimi would have continued to direct. And so it was really interesting seeing him in this film, because in this movie we get to see that the Vulture is not only and so it was really interesting seeing the Vulture in this movie. Now, I got to say that out I'd say this is probably the best Spider-Man movie that I've seen probably since the original second movie. Here are my pros. I love Tom Holland's performance in this movie as Spider-Man. He captured a lot of the wit and the humor and a lot of the action scenes really well, and he really captured the nerdiness of Peter Parker and the way that he is gifted as well, with how he's socially awkward and he doesn't always have a lot of friends and everything, and he's trying to woo the girl Liz at high school, and it really made me feel like I was in high. It felt like, because I can kind of relate to that because I was always kind of shy in high school and I didn't always socialize with a lot of people as well. And another praise I give the most is Michael Keaton's performance. Was great. Like, I'd say this is probably one of the best villains that I've seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, probably since Loki. And it was great that Michael Keaton is playing a guy with wings after he's played Batman in the past, who is also a winged figure. So that's really cool that you got a guy who went from being a hero to a villain. And not just that, but his character as well I actually found pretty captivating, because unlike other villains that we see in the cinematic universe, it seems like with this one we have a more sympathetic type villain, and you actually can get behind with a lot of his motivation that he does. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but there are some great twists and turns in this one that I actually found very incredible, that actually caught me off guard, that I really enjoyed. And another thing I really enjoyed too was the action scenes are great, especially when we get to the ferry scene where you have him, like you see in the trailer, where you see Spider-Man trying to pull together the yacht that falls apart, that's like split in half and everything. And I really enjoyed the way that they give Spider-Man this new suit from Tony Stark, and this suit can pretty much have all these different abilities. He's basically like Inspector Gadget if he was solving everything correctly and his suit didn't fall apart. So I thought that was pretty cool. And not just that, but the humor in this movie also worked too with when it needed to be. There were times that some jokes kind of didn't work too well, but then for the most part, when Spider-Man is doing his thing and spitting one-liners and being witty and all that, it really made me smile a lot, and it was really just funny every time that he would be kicking ass. And another thing too that I really appreciate was, it was cool that they were able to bring back the classic Spider-Man theme from back in the 60s when that original cartoon series came out, and they use an instrumental version in this one. And I also really highly enjoyed the way that Peter is going through this story arc where he's trying to prove himself to be Spider-Man and everything. I do have a couple of cons though. I wasn't really too sold on the Michelle character played by Zendaya. There were just a lot of parts in this film where it just felt like she was so random at times that it just kind of threw me off, and I was kind of annoyed by it. At times I did feel like she did have some funny moments here and there, but I could have done it for her character otherwise, to be honest. I guess that's the intent of the character, but I just wasn't really sold on her, and I thought she just wasn't necessary. Maybe it's a character that'll probably grow on me after, like, sometime later or something, but I just really didn't care for her too much, to be honest. And I also wasn't really too big on the 3D that much. There were some cool parts in it here and there that were pretty cool, that they had depth with, but a lot of the time it just seemed like when there's just dialogue scenes, a lot of the time the 3D just kind of is just there, and it kept going like in and out. So I could have probably maybe preferred to watch it in 2D, but I'd say the 3D was just, okay at best. But overall, though, I did highly enjoy Spider-Man Homecoming, and I really do believe that where this franchise is going now, that there is hope that we're going to get more Spider-Man films that are coming out that are going to do its, great fun, that are going to be entertaining like some of the original first two movies, and they're going to be going in the right direction. And so with that being said, with my little flaws that I did have, I'm going to give the Spider-Man Homecoming a 9 out of 10. What did you think of Spider-Man Homecoming? Those of you who have seen it, comment below, and if you like what you see here, you can check out more of my reviews and subscribe to my channel, and I'll be seeing you in my next review. I'll catch you later.